Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Women Redefining podcast, where women throughout Alberta are talking about how they are redefining entrepreneurship. My name is Stephanie Baker-Hoff, and I am the podcast producer for this amazing series brought to you by the Women Entrepreneurship Knowledge Hub, or WEC for short. Your hosts for this podcast are Anita Kemp and Shannon Pestun. Anita is the program leader for WEC Alberta, based out of Mount Royal University, and Shannon Pestun is WEC's Senior Advisor for Business and Finance. WEC is part of the federal government's Women Entrepreneurship Strategy, investing $5 billion with the goal of doubling the number of women entrepreneurs in Canada by 2025. Led out of Ryerson University, there are 10 regional hubs across the country sharing research on and resources for women entrepreneurs in Canada. Drawing on the expertise of a network that includes more than 250 organizations, WEC also hosts and supports programming that highlights opportunities and best practices for women entrepreneurs and the organizations that support them. Through Women Redefining, we capture insightful and inspiring conversations to raise awareness throughout Alberta's entrepreneurship and innovation ecosystem, and raise the profiles of women entrepreneurs and their businesses so that we can continue to challenge the existing stereotypes of entrepreneurs and share firsthand how women are thinking, being, and doing entrepreneurship in Alberta. Before we dive into this episode, I invite you to take a moment to be fully present and recognize the many traditional lands on which we are connecting, and acknowledge with gratitude and respect the many First Nations, Métis, and Inuit peoples whose footsteps were first to mark these lands.
Hello, and welcome to the Women Redefining podcast. My name is Shannon Pestun, and I'm the Senior Advisor Business and Finance for the Women Entrepreneurship Knowledge Hub. Here with me today is Bobbie Racette, founder and CEO of Virtual Gurus, a talent-as-a-service solution software platform that matches its users with the perfect North American remote assistants and freelancers by using matchmaking algorithms. Bobbie is an unstoppable force in the Canadian startup community. Recently, she was named both Canada's Indigenous Entrepreneur of the Year and Women Entrepreneur of the Year Prairies Region by Startup Canada, and Forbes announced Virtual Gurus as being one of the top 19 innovative tech startups to watch. A Cree-Métis woman who prides herself on building an inclusivity-first company, championing for Indigenous people and the LGBTQ2S+ community. She is a natural leader who shares her passion by mentoring First Nations youth who have demonstrated interest in business and tech. When she's not busy leading a team of nearly 450 people across Turtle Island and thinking about innovative ways to grow her startup, Bobbie enjoys brainstorming new approaches to create positive social impact in the Indigenous community, practicing her photography skills, and working on her garden. Bobbie, welcome. I'm so thrilled to have you.
Great. Thank you, Shannon. It's wonderful to be here.
Well, it's always great to spend time with you. And I'm going to start. Let's just talk about, tell me about Virtual Gurus and what it is Virtual Gurus is known for.
Definitely. So Virtual Gurus is considered a task. So it's a talent as a service platform where we provide virtual assistants, back office support to entrepreneurs and businesses of all sizes. But what makes us different is that we are crazy about our impact, where we provide the work to and the talent to these businesses, but the talent are often people who are from underrepresented communities. And we try to work with them to skill them up by going into our Virtual Gurus Academy. And we essentially prime them to become great, amazing administration people working from home. And often these are people who might be single stay-at-home moms who can't afford daycare, to Indigenous folks in remote communities, to people who might even be transitioning genders and just need that step up while they're going through their transition. So we try to help everybody, and we have plenty of people requesting work, which has been amazing. But the technology side of it is where we use matching algorithms, and we match the client based on what kind of skills they're looking for, what kind of a background they need, Eastern time zone, et cetera. And on the flip side, we have a virtual assistant talent onboarding platform where they are able to check on their profiles, log in their hours, and then they do all the work through the project system. So it's considered a two-sided marketplace.
Wow, so interesting. And I love the focus on inclusion and diversity. I mean, you're really walking the walk in your company, Bobbie. I want to talk about your entrepreneurial journey, sort of like when this moment, like when this idea became a spark for you and how that spark has carried you through to where the company is today.
So I moved to Alberta to work in the oil and gas industry, just like many other people. I come from Saskatchewan, and I was working in oil and gas, worked my way up to being a foreman. And in 2016, the recession hit and many people were being laid off, thousands of people. And I knew that my time of layoff was coming, and I just didn't know exactly when because I was a foreman and I was a foreman on the night shift. So I would work 12-hour shifts and then go back to my camp trying to figure out, okay, what am I going to do? Because I know it's coming any moment now. And I started looking online, and that's where I saw gig economy, freelance. And I thought, okay, I can do that at least and work from home. I'm pretty tech savvy. And, so I signed up to who are now some of our competitors and started working as an administrative remote worker for them. I found myself starting to have to bid as low as $2 an hour just to get some of these tasks. And I was like, there's absolutely no way that A, I would be able to survive off of that, but B, that this is even remotely like okay to do. And so I started talking to a lot of the clients and figuring out that people that were getting paid between $2 and $9 an hour for a lot of these platforms weren't necessarily providing the quality of freelancers, because a lot of them were offshore, because only offshore would take those rates. So that's essentially where the idea of maybe I can build something where I can actually provide meaningful work while providing a fair pay wage. So I started being the only virtual assistant myself. And I still wasn't laid off then. So I was working 12-hour shifts as a foreman, as a high angle safety technician. And then I would go back to my camp and eat. And then I would work from my room for 4 to 6 hours before I would sleep for 3 hours and go back and do it all over again. And so then I ended up getting laid off. And I literally had maybe $300 in my pocket. And I actually had just had to borrow money from my parents to pay my rent, because I was unemployed at that point for about 4 months after I got laid off. But I didn't really necessarily, I didn't start or corporate virtual gurus at the time yet. I was just the virtual assistant myself. And so from there, it just kind of exploded. Started with $300, built out the website on my own with the $300, and just started marketing it. I marketed on Kijiji and stuff and for super cheap, $14. And then I had 19 clients, and then the rest is history. From there, it just exploded. I hired my first virtual assistant in 2017.
So you had your first employee in 2017, and now fast forward to today where you've got nearly 450 people working for you.
Most of them are contractors, because what we do is we help them by getting them to build their own business, and we give them that entrepreneurial. So they're building their own business as well, where they're working for us, which is actually really good. So yeah, we have about 450 in total, close to. It might be a little bit off there, but there's 400 contractors basically across Canada right now. We haven't fully launched our contractors in the US yet, but we will be. And we are actually just in the process of launching in the UK. And so we will be hiring UK assistants and contractors out there because then of the time difference.
So you're really helping people also become entrepreneurs through them starting their own, contracting or consulting companies so that they can be doing some of the work. What point did you know that you sort of went from a side hustle? I mean, we'll say, and obviously we talk often too about why people go into entrepreneurship, and often it is out of necessity. That might be the number one driver. When was the moment that you knew I'm onto something and I can make this a business?
I'll be honest. Every business goes through a little bit of hardship at one point in their life, and many points in their life, I should say. But for me, a lot of people don't know, and I do talk about it in a few podcasts, but is that I actually hired a CEO that I met on Kijiji to be the CEO of Virtual Gurus, because I didn't think that I could do it. I had massive imposter syndrome. I didn't think that I was capable of doing it. I didn't believe in myself. So from the early stages of 2016 to when we first launched the company until when I first launched till about later 2017, I had a different person running the business and getting us kicked off. It was actually the point where I realized that I was the best person to be the founder and the CEO of this company. I was the best person to lead this company with my mission and my impact that I wanted to go after. And so removing him from the company and me taking my power back and taking the company back and being like, this is what I'm going to do, was really when I realized I'm onto something. It started scaling. It was growing. I didn't shy away from what my impact was, and that really helped it as well. So I would have to say probably near the end of 2017, early 2018 was when I realized, okay, wait, maybe I could start paying myself a salary soon, because I was, technically still on EI for the majority of that from oil and gas jobs. So
wow, what a story. And I know that you and I have spoken before, and one of the lines that you said to me that really just has always stayed with me, and you said, entrepreneurship is my medicine. Tell me what you mean by that and what makes it your medicine, Bobbie.
It is. When I was working in the oil and gas, even though I liked my job and I liked what I did, it wasn't necessarily what I knew that it wasn't me. It wasn't my calling. It wasn't what was me personally. And even when I look back at it, I'm very thankful that I used that to get to where I am today. But even before that, I traveled all across the world. I hitchhiked all across BC, Mexico, Europe for years. I lived in a van picking cherries and fruit for a living. Like, that's all, I had dreads down and whatever. And while it was an amazing life at the time, it certainly wasn't going to be my do-all for where I was, and where I had the potential to go. So now, fast forward to now, I've not only bought my own first home, I've created a dream life for myself that I'm very thankful for. And, I've been able to help my parents who now are retiring. I'm helping them out, and I'm able to do things where I've always inspired and dreamed to do, but I wasn't able to do that with my past life, so being able to do certain things now is I'm realizing that it is my calling, and where I'm at in life is exactly what I'm supposed to be, leading this team and challenging myself to not only be a leader, but challenging myself to learn everything. I've learned everything about finance. I've raised my first rounds on my own. I've raised 1.25 million, 1.7 million just a couple of weeks ago, all on my own. I mean, I have a team helping me, but, I've learned everything about financing, about pitching, and about all that. None of this I went to school for. And I'm not saying everybody should go to school. But I mean, it's something where I didn't know I had that ability, and I didn't believe in myself that I could do it. And so that's why entrepreneurship and where I'm at right now, I believe, is my medicine, because who I am today is such a stark difference from who I was 5 years ago. And even my mom says that, like, she's probably the most proud of me that I've ever seen her, because she's like, not only did I turn my life around, but I found something that I'm 100% utterly passionate for. And it not even necessarily just virtual gurus, it's in general being an entrepreneur. Like, I feel like this is exactly where I'm supposed to be.
Wow. I love it. And I also appreciate what you're saying. Like, so much of this you learn on the fly. No entrepreneurial handbook, and there's no two businesses that are the same. And you really have to learn as you go. And I think, we talked about finance, and, myself being a former banker, gosh, if more women could really wrap their arms around the financing side of the business, just how much more confident, I think, capable we would feel as entrepreneurs. I still think that's an area that holds us back. One of the things that I wanted to be able to ask you, though, too, is talking about the learning. You talked about the finance, and you've probably learned a lot more about business operations and even just how to grow internationally. But what have you learned about yourself?
I think that the thing that I've learned about myself the most is that, I know, and it's kind of I guess kind of probably cliche, but I would think that is that I actually am smart, and I mean, that's what I've learned, because I struggled in school when I was younger. I struggled finding that direction, and I was kind of more of a free-spirited person, and I've always struggled with thinking, maybe I'm not capable of doing certain things. And and I think I am, now that I've had this. So I've learned that I actually can do it. Like, the one thing about me is that I'm actually quite introverted. I like being alone in my garden, chilling out. And I might not look like it. I might look like I'm probably the person sitting at the pub mostly, but like, it's totally who I am. And I'm an introvert, and I just love that kind of peace and quiet, and so I think being able to come out of my shell, and, because it's very hard to be an introvert when you're an entrepreneur, because you have to stand out, you have to push yourself out, you have to learn, you have to talk, It was a struggle for the first few years, but it wasn't really a struggle. All it was me just learning as I went. And, everybody to this day knows my story of choking on my demo day at Arlene Dickinson's space downtown. And I had my demo day where we were supposed to get up on stage and pitch what Virtual Gurus was. And we were in the early stages and I just couldn't get off stage. I got sick. I had to leave the building. I rushed out of there, and now I can do it. Now I can do things like this. I can get up on stage, talk. And that's because I pushed myself to the limit. I pushed myself out of my comfort zone and I learned from it. I took everything as a learning lesson, even when I was raising money and and having to reach out to investors, them saying no. 170 investors said no to me. That hurts. It's tough. It's like, and you're like, oh, how am I going to get past this? But it was every single no that essentially almost, I would say, knocked me down. And I just kept getting up and getting stronger and stronger and stronger. I guess essentially, long answer short, I learned that I am actually smart and that I can actually do it. And I surprise myself sometimes when I think about it.
Well, I think that's incredibly cool. And we do surprise ourselves, but I think also it's about taking risks. You have to have some willingness to embrace risk, and not just some willingness. You have to be able to embrace risks in all of its dimensions. Yeah. When we embrace risks too, then we're more comfortable trying the new thing. And of course, we're going to fail. You're going to get no's along the way. And you said 170 no's. Like that's a lot of no's to keep coming back, because a lot of people at that point say, well, maybe, you actually start to believe that other people, what other people might be saying about your company, or maybe you're not in the mission that you have and the vision. And I do want to pivot to the mission that you have, because yours is really about providing employment opportunities to individuals from historically underrepresented backgrounds. Where and how did that become your mission?
Ever since I was young, I've gone through a lot of hardships in a way of prejudice and prejudices in our family. So I'm not from a traditional family, in a sense. I have two moms. They're from a same-sex relationship. They've been together for 45 years. They raised me and my brother. In the 70s, them being a same-sex relationship, it was really tough. Not only that, my mom taking us from the reserve and moving us into the city because she is a residential school survivor, and she really wanted to move me and my brother out of certain situations. And so just the adversity of surviving through all of that, to when I was growing up, I have a severe skin disease called polymorphous light eruption. And so having to go through the bullying from elementary school to high school with that disease, to being able to realizing that I was gay myself, and so I went through a whole cycle of everything from being underrepresented to, trying to apply for jobs and people not giving me jobs because of the way I look, that I wasn't going to wear the skinny dress or this or that. And, certain things like it happens. So I told myself that when one day I'm going to start a company where I'm going to give work to those that have always struggled, or to give work to those who have gone through what I've gone through. Because at the end of the day, the way somebody comes and applies for a job or comes and works here, the way they dress, or if they have tattoos on their hands or whatever, is not who they are as their skill. That's not their skill. And that does not stop what their skill set is. So it was really important for me to be able to provide work to people who have gone through what I've gone through. Because at the end of the day, I've had a lot of people turn me down. And so that's kind of where our impact came from. So I've created a mandate with Virtual Gurus where 95% of our contractors will identify as female, and 65% are part of the BIPOC community, and 45% will be part of the LGBTQ community. And though these are just our three main mandates, but we have everything in there. We have people who have social anxiety, to people who have disabilities. And a lot of people like that. A lot of people love that. Clients come to us for that. Now, that said, we can't just go and hire anybody and expect them to have administration support experience, but we do have a lot of people where they come forward and we train them and we help get them there. So that's where we created the Virtual Gurus Academy. And the Academy essentially trains them on everything back office support, whether it be design, social media, bookkeeping, to all of that. And then we help them create their own business. And then they are potentially getting clients through us. It's kind of like a big cycle. So I've set that out as a mandate. So anybody that's an employee at Virtual Gurus, we have 26 full-time salaried staff, has to be a part of that impact and has to understand that is who we are. It's in our DNA. And so on the back end, where people don't see, We have meetings, like I had an upper management meeting today, and we talked about diversity and inclusion. With the residential school situation, we had a prayer with one of our ladies, did a prayer. She's Indigenous from the Blackfoot tribe. We did a couple, medicine shout outs, and it was just, it really helped us as a whole and helps us as a company. We really try to make sure that we're helping everybody get through the diversity inclusion, and we say, everybody's welcome. So when people come to us, they see such a diverse company, and clients come to us for those reasons, and it's great. It's cool to see that it's come this far.
Absolutely.
Mm.
I love that you've put numbers to being able to measure this, and to say you've set the mandate for yourself and for the company. I think there's a lot of entrepreneurs that want to be able to do the same and don't know how maybe to measure that. What advice can you give another entrepreneur to measuring their success, or what sort of ideas can you give to help people start moving forward and creating a more diverse and inclusive workforce within their own companies?
I think it's important to start with, so how we started was we started creating our mission, vision, and values. And a lot of that is providing work to underrepresented folks. So then what we did was we took those values and we wrote, what are our values? Who do we want to hire? What are we going to go after? What are the people that we want to represent to be virtual gurus? So we created that mandate based on that. And my challenge and my like what I suggest that people do, or what that helped us, is we held ourselves accountable by putting the numbers on our website, for one. We held ourselves accountable by, on our website, if you scroll down to the bottom of the footer, we have and acknowledge that we are on Treaty 7 land, that our headquarters is on that land. We changed everything as far as our messaging and our brand. So if you look at our new logo, there's a star at the top, and that's because that's our North Star. So it starts with you as a company that start laying out the foundation of what your impact's going to be. You change your site, put the numbers on your site, the statistics, send out newsletters to your company and your team members. This is who we are. You'll start seeing the brand, you'll start seeing the impact in the whole team shifting. And we only started shifting this a year and a half ago. And, because at the time, a year and a half ago, I was technically still an early stage startup. So our focus isn't on that part yet. Our focus is on building out our MVP still. So now we've been able to shift our focus to, we're still building up the MVP. We got it going, we're rocking out, but now we're focused on what is our impact and what is our, responsibilities, and how are we going to hold ourselves accountable as a company to make sure we get that. So it's important, I think, for every company to get out of their comfort zone and challenge themselves. Even if the numbers are small at first, it's fine, because you'll notice you'll hold yourself accountable more to them.
Accountability is key, and they always say what gets measured gets done.
Yeah.
It's great to see that you're able to sort of walk the walk on that.
Yeah.
You talked about in our call so far, the ability to give back to your parents, the ability to give back to your community, the ability to grow this company in such meaningful ways where you're providing more opportunities for underrepresented groups. What are you most proud of? There's so much sitting here in a short period of time, but when you think back and you're looking at your company and you're Bobbie Racette saying, wow, like I've done this, what are you most proud of?
I think I'm most proud of staying true to myself, staying true to my mission, being true to not getting out of what I inspired to be, which is I always inspire to help people. When you become an entrepreneur and you're in something that is scaling up, and I see it in this way, but the noise in the background, the media, the this and that, it's hard sometimes to not only lose yourself, but you kind of get caught up in all that white noise, and we call that white noise, but you kind of get caught up in it and you forget to stay true to yourself because your business is just going right. And so it was really important for me that I stay grounded. It was really, really important for me that I stay humble. And it's extremely important for me that I stay true to what my mandate is. And that is what's laid out on our site, and that is our impact. When I was raising my first round of investments last year, February 2020 was the only, I bootstrapped it up till then. I went through 170 investors saying no. Now, I tell this story because I think it's important for people to know that you don't let that beat you down, because at the same time, every no gave me more power to just come back stronger. And I'm extremely proud of myself that I did not back down from who I was and why I'm doing what I'm doing. Because when I said investors said no, it was because a lot of them thought maybe you don't need to have this impact. Maybe you don't need to shout it out that you're LGBTQ. Maybe you don't need to do this. And it's like, no, I need to. That's who I am. And I'm not changing that from who I am. And that's not changing it from what I inspire to be and what I'm going to do. So maybe you're not the right investor for me. And that's where it started shifting more. And you have to stay true to yourself. So I'm extremely proud for being who I am, being very candid, being true to myself, being humble, and staying through it, and staying the par, and not letting the white noise get to me, you know? And I think that's...
Wow, that's incredible, because so often, particularly you're raising money, you know, you'll get other people's vision, you'll get other people's view of where you need to take the company. And we hear this so often from women entrepreneurs, that they have a very different vision. Again, there's a social purpose, there's a social impact, there's a purpose behind what the business is. And I think, again, just living proof of the fact that staying true to your vision can create you can create a very strong company. You've done that. Bobbie, you often, you know, have had to challenge the system that's in front of you. And I really want to ask you about why you think it's important that we also challenge some of the stereotypes of Indigenous women entrepreneurs and their businesses.
I think, and I'm pretty, you know, I hope that everybody thinks the same, but is that it's more important now than ever that we show everybody and that we all challenge this, because I mean, now more than ever, there are so many Indigenous entrepreneurs coming out. Like when I first became an entrepreneur, and this wasn't a long time ago, it was like 5 years ago, 4.5 years ago. I was the only Indigenous woman in tech that I knew of in Canada. And, you know, a lot of people were catching on to the story, and a lot of people were thinking, wow, this is amazing. Like, you know, there's not a lot, let alone Indigenous women LGBT in tech, right? So, but now there are companies that are popping up that are just helping with this. Indigenous, Raven Indigenous Capital, Fireweed, Cohort and Accelerator that are bringing in a lot of Indigenous women entrepreneurs. We have the Sage Initiative, where they're bringing young Indigenous women to become investors into startups and companies like ours, you know, and there's accelerators popping up. Like it's happening. And that's why it's important, because in this last year, everybody's been pushing forward and saying, look, these people are here, they're entrepreneurs, they're doing it, you know, and people are coming out. And, you know, I have many people reaching out to me, Indigenous young women mostly, asking me to mentor them, their businesses. They have business ideas. What do I think about it? Can they pick my brain for a couple of minutes? And I try to be available to them as much as I can, because it's important for us to be there for them, to show them and kind of hold their hands to say, you know what, come on up, let's do this. You know, so I think it's extremely important, especially right now.
Well, when we take a look at Indigenous women entrepreneurs, we know that the barriers, one of the greatest barriers, is access to networks. And like you said, you were the only woman in tech that you knew of across the country. And so paving the way for others and being there is going to be a critical part of that future pipeline.
It is.
Tell me about who has inspired you or supported you most throughout your journey, and the role that this person or people played for you.
You know, I get asked this question a lot, and I always think, you know, oh, I don't want to be that cheesy person that's going to always say my mom. And, but, you know, I'm going to be that person. It's my moms, you know, especially, you know, the adversity that they've gone through their lives, like, especially with my mom being a residential school survivor, and she's got maybe grade 6 level, and she's okay with me saying that. So I've always confirmed with her it's okay. But she pulled through and did what she needed to do to raise me and my brother. And you know, now where she sees that I'm successful and that I have my aspirations and I have goals and I bought a house for myself, and you know, she's my biggest cheerleader. And she's the one that, you know, there were a few times that I actually did want to throw in the towel and thought, you know, maybe this isn't for me. And I was really struggling, you know, and especially when I was raising my funding round. And she was the one that would fly out here right off the bat and come, you know, you're going to do this, honey. This is why you're going to do this, because you were meant to do this. And she just really encouraged me and got me through it. Well, there are times where I would call her and just want to cry because, you know, no investors were wanting to invest in me, and I wasn't able to pay myself a salary yet and certain things. And she really pushed me through that. Even to this day, I like called her last night and told her stuff that I'm going through. And she's just my number one cheerleader, and she's a great sounding board. she also is really good at putting me in my space when she says that I'm being an idiot. And I need that too sometimes, right? So at the end of the day, I honestly, truly do think it's her. She's been there the most for me. But if we want to go more on the professional side, I would have to say at this point, it's been my board of directors. Not only are they there for me, not only do they check in with me, but they literally put up with my annoying texts and emails that I need to pick their brain for a minute. And they make themselves available to me whenever I need. They help me they help mentor me because I still need it too. I'm still young and trying to figure out this entrepreneurial life. And they really do support me through it. So super important to make sure that you get yourself a good board of directors.
Well, great advice. And I mean, you're not alone. So many people I know would thank their moms for the inspiration and giving a place to land. When we're not feeling our best, or we need that kick in the pants, so to speak. And the board too. I mean, it's one of those things where we will never know everything, and it's important to surround ourselves with great people who can give us that mentorship. And I think about even like through the fundraising and pitching phase, and people want to know that they have an entrepreneur that they can be coaching and that they can be supporting. And so never stop learning. And I hope you never lose that edge to keep taking risks as well. I want to ask you, we've got a couple of questions left. And my next question for you is around your hope for the future of Indigenous women's entrepreneurship. What changes do you believe will have the biggest impact on closing some of the gaps that we see here, and why?
My hope is that Caroline Hilton's created a book, The Indigenomics, taking a seat at the economic table and with the $100 billion Indigenous market. And I'm reading it right now. And when I read it, I get so inspired, like about thinking, holy crap, I'm a part of this, and I feel like so many entrepreneurs are coming out. So many Indigenous entrepreneurs are starting to come out. We still have a lot of work left to do. We really do need to keep encouraging and keep building, bringing people out and keep encouraging these business ideas that they have. There really is a $100 billion market in the Indigenous community. And I really do feel that we're so much more closer to it. I feel that the future is, I think that it's shifting right now, where we're going to start seeing Indigenous women taking pretty big seats at tables that are becoming CEOs of large companies, to building scale ups and like writing books and I really do feel that it's all coming, and I feel the shift is happening. We have so much more work to do, and I just think that if we all just keep plugging away at it and keep going, that it's going to happen. And I truly feel that Indigenous women are going to be taken over. I really do believe it.
And really reclaiming their space. Tara Fraser often talks about this. It's about reclamation right now in so many different ways. And so I'm with you. My hope is very similar to yours in that regard. Now let's go back to, like, when you take a look at the future, what does success look like for you, Bobbie Racette, and for Virtual Gurus?
Well, for me, I think about this a lot, because a lot of people say, well, what is success to you? And for me, a lot of people will say, oh, success is when I sold my business for $100 million. And that's not me. Success for me is that I'm able to provide work to a very minimum of 1,000 people. And we will be at 1,000 contractors and people and workers by mid next year for sure. And success for me is waking up every day and knowing my why, and being confident and passionate about my why, and making sure that all my team is passionate about their why. And if I have a motto that my mom's been saying since I was young, and it's inspire one, inspire a nation. So if I inspire just one person every single day, then that's success for me at this point, because I'm not in this for the money. I'm not in this for any of that. I'm in this because it's my passion, and I'm in it because I'm making a difference. So I think that would be my personal success, is just being able to keep inspiring and keep pushing through that. And when Virtual Gurus might get sold, Virtual Gurus might, whatnot. And if it does, and when it does, I'm not going to stop being an entrepreneur, and I'm not going to stop. I've got other ideas, and I want to keep going. For Virtual Gurus, it's hard to tell. We are going into our Series A funding round here pretty soon, between 12 and 15 million. And we are most likely, we've already got a few requests on the table for acquisition, and we've got a lot on the go with it. So I see Virtual Gurus really taking over as the freelancing company to go to in North America. we already are taking full control of the US's virtual assistant industry. And we're launching in the UK pretty soon. So I see, us being the, when you're walking down the street and you talk to somebody and they're like, I need an assistant. Oh, I have a guru. Like I see it happening like that, being kind of the next big thing. So I don't know where we're going to go from here as far as after our Series A, but we do have a lot of people interested in taking us and acquiring us and stuff too. So we'll see. Sky's the limit still. I think we're just getting started.
Well, I have no doubt that your future is full. It's bright. I feel the optimism coming. And I think about being in a time of COVID-19 and the pandemic and just really watching your business soar over the last year as well. You've been an absolute delight to follow over the past couple of years. I know that we've watched you on social media. We've seen this, the awards that you're bringing in. But most importantly, we see the heart that you have for the work that you do. And we just continue to wish you much success. So on that note, I really want to thank you, Bobbie, for taking the time to share your thoughts and your story with us and sharing some really important insights, particularly around Indigenous women's entrepreneurship, because we do have greater barriers in a lot of ways. And I think you tackled some of those today. And also to our listeners, thank you for listening in. Time is very precious, but I'm sure that you gleaned so many great insights from Bobbie as I did today. And we also encourage you to listen to the full series of conversations on our Women Redefining podcast and to check out the WEC website at wekh.ca for our See It, Be It database, where you can discover over 1,000 successful women entrepreneurs like Bobbie across Canada. Bobbie, thank you so much for your time today. Thank you for your passion and for everything that you're doing to create a more inclusive, diverse economy.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure.